Okay, so last night or whatever, I don't know what was going on in the computer. It's just kind of not functioning right, I guess. And I just decided, well, I'm just going to close out a bunch of damn windows. And I closed out the windows, and there's this fucking weird ass browser just sitting there. I thought, that's the weirdest fucking browser I've ever seen. All it has is text. Now I finally figured out it's my Scrivener app. My Scrivener app. The app that I use to write in, or used to at least, and haven't written in it in a while. I've been using these other cheaper pieces of shit like drafts. I can't figure that shit out. It's like just too much goddamn stuff. Copy here, copy there, do this, do that. I don't need to do all that. I don't need all that shit on the fucking sidebar. We can make the sidebar go away. Just fuck you. And so I got down. There's a whole stack of these motherfuckers here. I got down to one that said, I don't know. What? Over here on the side, all it said was, I don't know if that is how it. Anyway, I was gonna narrate this thing, read through it, see how it sounded after I get done. It says, home is where your heart is, where your mind takes you to easy times. That sounds nice. It really does. I wish it worked that way. I wish home were a place you could just close your eyes and return to, like a well-kept dream that always takes you back in. But I don't know if that's how it works. I think maybe that's how we wish it worked. Like the heart could just point to a place and call it home. Like the mind could just choose a memory and make it whole again. But the truth is, both heart and mind are travelers, and neither of them stay long in one place. The heart is restless, the mind unfaithful. Home, if it exists, has to be built out of something sturdier than longing. I've carried the idea of home around my whole life, like a folded piece of paper in my pocket. It changes shape every time I open it. When I was young, home was a place I wanted to escape. Too small, too quiet, too known. Later, it became the thing I was trying to find again. Same word, different ink. Somewhere along the way, the word stopped meaning walls and a roof and started meaning a feeling. But even that feeling slips away when you try to hold it too tight. Maybe that's the trick of it. Maybe home isn't where your heart is. Maybe it's where your heart rests. And that's a hard difference to live through. Because the heart can be in 1,000 places at once. It can be with the people you've lost or the ones you haven't met yet. It can be in the sound of an old song or the smell of something cooking. The heart travels constantly, crossing time zones of memory and desire, but resting, that's another thing entirely. Resting takes trust. Resting takes staying put. And the mind, well, the mind likes to tell stories about ease. It edits the past, it softens the edges, it paints the old days with the kind of light that never actually existed. The mind tells you that there were once easy times, but I think maybe all times are hard, and the only easy thing is remembering. The mind turns the difficult into distance, and distance into nostalgia. So when someone says home is where your heart is, where your mind takes you to easy times, I understand the beauty of it, but I also feel the loneliness under it. That quiet recognition of what we call home might just be the name for the place we can't return to. I don't mean that bitterly. I don't think the point is despair. I just think that the real work of living isn't about returning to the easy place, but learning how to build one in the middle of the hard ones. See, the world is full of beautiful phrases that sound true until you try to live inside them. Follow your heart. Everything happens for a reason. Home is where the heart is. They all have that same problem. They make it sound like meaning comes naturally, like belonging is built into us. But it isn't. Belonging is an act of labor. It takes tending. It takes showing up when it's not easy. The heart drifts. The mind wanders. But the body is what roots you. The body that sits at the table, that chops the vegetables, that sweeps the floor, that opens the door for someone else. The body that aches when it's been away too long, that's where home begins, in the dailiness of the thing. If the heart is the spark and the mind is the mirror, then the body is the hearth. You can't live in easy times. You can only live in this time. The one that's got bills and weather and aging and the way people forget to call. The one that's got late nights and heavy mornings. The one that keeps demanding you show up again. Home isn't a place that frees you from those things. It's the place where they make sense. Where the ordinary burdens of life feel worth the wait. I think about the phrase easy times. I can't help but smile a little smile. Because the times that shaped me, the times I remember with the most affection, weren't easy at all. They were raw, full of noise and mess. They were the times I thought I was breaking, but ended up growing. The times I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it anyway. That's what I look back on now, not ease, but the effort that meant something. The easy times, if they ever existed, probably slipped by without me even noticing. It's only later you look back and think, God, that was peace, because you're in chaos again. But real peace, that's something else. That's when the inside and the outside line up. When your being and your doing aren't fighting each other. When you can sit down, breathe, and say, this is enough. And that can happen anywhere. Not just in the house you grew up in, not just in the dream you can't quite rebuild. Home isn't a return. It's a recognition. There's an old line from Rilke that says, the only journey is the one within. I used to think that sounded like mystic nonsense. But the older I get, the more I see the truth in it. You can change towns, jobs, lovers, clothes. But if you don't change your interior geography, you're just walking in circles. You can pack your heart into a suitcase and take it anywhere. But until you learn to rest inside yourself, you will always be homeless. Maybe that's what Lisa meant in her way. That home is where your heart is. Maybe she was talking about that kind of inward homecoming. The one where your mind takes you to peace, even if the world outside isn't peaceful. Maybe she was talking about the kind of ease that isn't made of circumstance, but of acceptance. And I want to believe that. I really do. But part of me, the part that's seen the motel ceilings, the hospital nights, the too quiet apartments, knows that peace doesn't just come from within. We are not built to be self contained. We need other people, other walls, other hands. We need something to press against. We need a world to live in. That's why I say I don't know if that's how it works. Because the heart can tell you you're home and still you're lonely. The mind can paint an easy picture and still you ache for something real. It's not enough for home to be a feeling. It has to be a fact. I remember once sitting in a kitchen that wasn't mine, somebody else's house, music on low, people talking around me. I wasn't saying much, just sitting there, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, listening, and suddenly it hit me. This is what home feels like. Not because it was my place, but because it didn't matter whose it was. I was at ease. And maybe that's what we are after. Not a permanent address, but a portable stillness. The ability to be at ease somewhere, even if you don't own it. To be at ease in a room, in your skin, in the moment. That's the real trick. But even that ease, the true kind, doesn't come cheap. It's built from 1,000 small acts of showing up for yourself, for others, for the work, for the day. It's strange, isn't it? That things we call home are so fragile, so particular. A smell, a voice, a dog at your feet, a song through thin walls. You take away any of those things, and the spell breaks. That's why it's so hard to find again, because home isn't a thing you can point to. It's a moment of alignment between the world and the soul. And those moments don't last, they flicker, but that doesn't mean they aren't real. Maybe we keep going because we hope to build enough of those moments that one day they hold. We hope that if we play enough songs, cook enough meals, speak enough truth, the world will soften around us and call us by name. Maybe home isn't a place or a memory or even a place. Peace. Maybe it's a conversation between the life you've lived in the house and the life you're still building. The heart speaks, the mind remembers, the hands, they keep moving. And somewhere between those three, a little space opens up. Not easy, not perfect, but it is real. That is home. So when I hear someone say home is where your heart is, where your mind takes you to the easy times, I smile and I nod and I say, that sounds nice. Because it does. It sounds like a wish, like something you'd hang above a doorway in cursive letters. But I also know that home is more stubborn than that. It doesn't appear because you think soft thoughts about it. It appears because you've lived long enough to know what you're willing to stay for. Home is work. Home is endurance. And home is love that does not leave. And maybe, just maybe, once in a while, when the light hits right, when the air smells like something familiar, when your heart stops pacing and your mind goes quiet, maybe then the phrase is true. Maybe then, for a heartbeat or two, home really is where your heart is. Maybe it's where your mind, tired of remembering, finally lets you rest. But even then, I'd whisper to myself, be careful, William. Don't romanticize it. Don't turn it into poetry because you're afraid of losing it again. Let it be what it is, fragile, temporary, holy in its smallness. But maybe that's the real truth. Home doesn't have to last forever to be real. It just has to last long enough long enough to hold you. And that might be the closest thing we get to easy times. Okay. It did okay, I think. I don't know how it sounds on that thing there, but I had a couple of fits and starts and trips and whatever. Got a little worked up there at the end. That very last line got me. I don't remember writing this. There's a lot of shit I don't remember writing. I find shit all the time on the computer. I've taken pictures of like thousands of stuff, papers. I don't even know where the papers are anymore. I got thousands with me. I carry them around with me everywhere the fuck I go, and they're the most important things to me in my life. After my kids, of course, and after God and my parents. Well, whatever, you get it. Material things, those papers. My dad's sick. I told him, you know, all you have to do is give the word, and I'm up and out of here. I'll leave this shit behind. I said, I'll grab my Mac Mini, my computer, I'll grab my iPads, and I'll grab my writings, and I'll stuff them in a big old canvas bag if I have to. 2 of them if it takes it, and we'll pay for those motherfuckers to fly over home, because I am not leaving that shit here. God, he's like, son, you're okay. There's nothing's on fire right now. You're fine. Wow. That was just... I don't remember writing that. But there's a lot of shit I don't remember writing. And the app was just open. I didn't open it. I don't know. Sometimes shit just goes weird on the computer, And I looked at it and I thought, that's the weirdest fucking browser I've ever seen. And why come there's only just words? And I look at it and finally I figure out, and I looked at the bottom and it said 1,681 words. And I was like, oh, okay, I know that. Oh, okay, I know what this is. This is Scrivener. What is that column of writings over there on the left side? It's just an absolute column. Scrivener's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat piece of software. I see I had a piece on here called, it is here, on writing. I'll read a little bit. I said, no, I don't have any idea. I don't remember writing. Nobody writes anymore. Nobody. Not me. No, I'll write. I'll write you a fucking book in the text message box, whether I'm sitting at my big boy keyboard or at the desktop computer, or whether I'm on the bus with just my phone. I will write you a book. Now, you may not be too keen on receiving one of these text messages from me. And, well, to that I say, then don't fucking read it. Give it a thumbs up so that I know what's up. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It only means that I know you're not going to read it. Or if you do, it'll be better after you go to bed with the one eye that's open. At any rate, I'll write you a book via text message and then hit edit and go back and fix the typos. It's got to be fixed, man. I can't be having typos floating around, even if the meaning can easily be discerned. I got to go back and fix it. How come, bruh? No room for that one right there. Lost my spot here. It needs to be cut up into paragraphs. Where did it go? No room for that one right there, but I will say this. It is always a bit nerve-wracking for me. For what if the person to whom I sent the message has already read it or is reading it and is only going to do so once? My goodness, do I get all uptight, on the edge of my seat, and whatever else, because it's got to be right. Well, then I don't peruse it, the message. Then how come I don't peruse it, the message, before I hit send? go ahead and make the corrections right there before I hit send. That's easy enough to fix. Well, okay, and I'll say this. That's a fair question, and one to which I don't have a satisfying answer. I don't know. So there. But now I am back for I have thought of some answers as to why I don't just edit my text messages before sending them, which would obviously get rid of the issue, as it exists in my mind at least, regarding the recipient reading the text before I can edit the text on my side. Well, for one thing, I don't want to lose that text. Sometimes, whenever I hit a certain button on the phone or do whatever, boom, it's all gone, vanished. So, for one, I send it to make sure it's not going to get lost. Well, okay, sure, but then somebody might rightly ask, well, why don't you write these as super very important text messages in the Notes app? Do that first, then copy paste. That's a good question. Fuck you, but good question. Sometimes I do so happen to do that, usually when I know ahead of time that I have something of some length and of some importance to write, to communicate in a timely manner. Sure, yes, I'll write it in the Notes app, then copy paste. But that only gets at the planned. It doesn't get at the unplanned. The text messages I start to write, either as a response or reply, or whether I myself am initiating the text thread, because I get into it and run with it, or it runs with me, runs clean away with me. Okay, so I still don't have a good, satisfying answer. Perhaps it's the thrill of the challenge of getting it right before they read it. I do like it, actually. I know I do. The feeling of being under the gun when I write, when there is something I got to get out quick, say, because I can see the little bubbles telling me the other person is writing, or better, perhaps typing, or perhaps their cursor is just sitting there in the text box and they ain't typing a damn thing. But either way, I get excited when I have to write, and write well, and execute all aspects of writing, and send my message across to them before they can send theirs across to me. Now, why is this such an issue? It's not really an issue. Lots of times, it's just a matter of my aesthetic. That is, I think the text will look better, will be, say, more keen to the eye if I get mine across before they get theirs across, for whatever reason. It matters not. And that seems to be the end of that one. Weird. Let's see if this picks it up. Huh. Nope. Well, this is rather new, actually. Let's see. It's called On Writing, Del Rey and Zero Friction, the Coefficient of Words. Why do I steal the show, as you say? Well, I think sometimes I want to pull you into my little universe to get you to fully embrace all the elements of my little universe, whether it's California Kyle and the cat, or Miss May's Country Diner, where it's always Tuesday, and thus always Fried Chicken Tuesday. I want to pull you in with me. But why? Let me think about that for a little bit, because I don't have a satisfying answer at the moment. And here, this is me saying no idea. I need some time to think about it. That little stop and go I do, well, is actually very telling of the process I go through when I write. And I mean when I write like this, like I'm doing here. That is, I will stumble across things and not be able to answer a question about it, such that I need some time to think. I'm engaging a hermeneutical one. Because myself, I find it to be fascinatingly fun to play with. And perhaps I just want somebody else to play with. Yes, that's it, or part of it. Part of the it. I want somebody to play with. I want somebody to talk with and speak with and play with regarding these little universes I tend to create. California Kyle. Now, I have two photographs of Kyle, and oddly enough, the fellow in the photos, his name actually is Kyle. Now, when I took his photos off his Facebook page, when I absconded with them and used them in the way that I did, namely as this dude in the photo is as California Kyle, and he says one thing and one thing only: where's the cat? And this he says holding either an AK-47 or a pistol with a silencer on the end. I swear to God. And it wasn't 5 minutes later, even less, that his Facebook page, well, it disappeared. Either he blocked me or else he just took it down. Seeing as how I was spreading his image with guns all over the internet. And this Kyle, he's a fellow I met in Florida during one of my tours of duty at DRC, Delray Recovery Center. The first of 2 trips to Florida. Well, why did I go? Was I strung out on drugs? Alcohol? Not really. Not really. Sure, I was using drugs. Ephedrine. Okay, blah. Who cares about that shit? This could be good, but it needs a little work. Yeah, okay, I'm tired of reading it already. Let's see. The speed of smell. See, hide and seek. Huh. Hide and seek number 2. The outspoken. Let's see. How does this one start? Here it is, a full rendering of the fragment into long form. The outspoken. Oh, okay. I see it now. I see it. Everybody got something to say, right? Oh, okay. I see it now. I see it. I do. I see it. Yeah. Well, everybody got something to say until it's time to damn say it. There's an economy of speech that rarely gets named. Words are mined cheaply in the workshops of everyday life, and the tongue spins them freely. Yet not all coins of speech carry equal weight. It's too heavy for me to read it. I don't remember writing that one. So, there are people who say they do not like metal. These are some lyrics called The Metal Soul. There are people who say they do not like metal. They say it is too loud, too harsh, too aggressive. They can't hear past the growl, the distortion, and the blast beats. They ask, how could anyone rest inside that noise? And yet there are others, those of us who live with what I will call the metal soul, for whom that very noise is life-giving, clarifying, and yes, even soothing. Metal is not simply a genre, it is a resonance. Those who recoil from it are not wrong. They are hearing what their soul does not need. But those who fall into it instantly, recognizing something deeper, here is a sound that matches the weight inside me. To speak of a metal soul is not mere metaphor. The body itself testifies. Screws in the knees, plates in the shoulder, fusion in the spine. The MRI technician asks, do you have metal in you? The answer is yes, not only in bone and hardware, but in the spirit that has endured the hammering of catastrophe. Metal is not smooth, metal is tempered. It is what remains after fire, after pounding, after cooling. So it is with the soul. Those who have lived through sudden injury, relentless pain, uninvited surgeries, the unpredictable betrayal of the body, they know that sweetness alone cannot carry them. They need a music strong enough to hold the fury, and yet ordered enough to give it form. That is what metal offers. But here is the paradox. For the metal soul, yep, still recording. But here is the paradox. For the metal soul, this music is not merely catharsis. It is comfort. Others hear it as an assault, an intrusion, an unlivable dissonance. But the metal soul hears home. Because when the inner world already roars, what soothes is not quiet, but recognition. To hear guitars tuned down to the earth, drums that thunder like a storm, voices that scream with rage too big for words. This is to be told. You are not alone. That is why one can sleep to metal. Not because it dulls the senses, but because it aligns them. In Atlanta, at Sweetwater Live, the wall vibrated with the band's force, and yet the body could release because the music was carrying the same voltage already flowing inside. I had fallen asleep. I was dead out for a while that night on that stool against that wall. I heard the lullaby of distortion, the cradle of rhythm. The kinship among metal fans is not accident. When two strangers discover they both carry a metal soul, there is no need for further proof. They are brothers, sisters, kin. Because what is recognized is not just a taste, but a survival. To love metal is to admit, I have known enough chaos to need this sound, and to find another who also needs it is to find someone who finds someone tempered by similar fires. This is why one can say without irony, I am blessed to have a metal soul. Because it means the chaos did not destroy me. It shaped me into something strong enough to endure. Metal itself, as music, has gone through this tempering. Heavy metal, as it was once called, was a child of the late 20th century, born of amplified guitars, distortion, and blues riff, pushed to the breaking point. That child has long since grown. The 1980s gave us the glam and the excess. But the modern soul of metal is different. Call it Gojira, Meshuggah, Lamb of God, or Devil Driver. Bands that do not confuse volume with depth, but build hooks and riffs that carve meaning out of the sound. There is bad metal, of course, bands who scream, okay, enough. Enough of that one. Patiently patient. I don't know, I'm getting tired. I hadn't read that first one through. Impatiently patient. Patience and impatience are supposed to stand opposite one another. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Here's one. Idealism is expensive. Zero Friction Machine Company archival file. Idealism is expensive. Classification ZFMC. Philosophy, fragment, idealism. Idealism is expensive. The fragment, like a shard of lightning, gives us the whole sky in an instant. A statement of 5 words, yet it contains in the seed the drama of philosophy, politics, ethics, and history. What is idealism if not the refusal to bow before what is merely given? What is it if not the insistence that the real ought to conform to the true? And what is the cost of such existence, if not immense? Already then we see the reason. The idealist pays while the realist profits. But what precisely does it mean that idealism is expensive? Expensive in what coin? Now, there are many currencies in the human life. There is the currency of money, of course, but also of reputation, of safety, of belonging, of time, of love, of health, of one's very body. Idealism is expensive in every one of these. To hold to ideals means to forfeit bargains, to refuse shortcuts, to risk friendships, to endure ridicule, to delay gratification, to shoulder the mockery of the cynical. Consider the life of Socrates. He was an idealist, not in the sense of an impractical dreamer, but in the stricter sense of one who measured life against the form, of the good. For him, the unexamined life was not worth living. And so, when the city demanded silence, he refused. His refusal cost him reputation, safety, belonging, and finally his very life. He drank the hemlock, not because he was foolish, but because he was faithful to his ideal. The cost was terrible, but what he purchased was eternal. The memory of a soul that would rather die than betray its truth. The realist appears to pay less. He adapts, compromises, adjusts. He says, do not demand much of the world. Take what you can get. He arrives in the short term because his economy is one of immediate terms, but the realist pays too. Only his payment is hidden. He buys the comfort at the price of integrity, security at the price of freedom, applause at the price of self-respect. His life is less visibly expensive, but more insidiously impoverished. The idealist pays up front. The realist pays by installments. Idealism is expensive also because it resists time itself. Time is the ally of decay, of weariness, of compromise. Ideals are not realized quickly. Justice, beauty, love, these require lifetimes. Often more than one generation to bear fruit. The idealist, therefore, spends not only his resources but his time, pouring hours and years into labors that may not yield in his lifetime. To believe in the dignity of man when slavery dominates, to believe in the equality of women when the patriarchy reigns, to believe in peace when nations march to war. These are projects that consume lifetimes. And yet without them, history itself does not move. The expense is great, but it is through such expenditures that the future is purchased. Let us also remember the expense borne by the heart. To hold ideals is to expose oneself to betrayal, for ideals are fragile. They can be mocked, misunderstood, trampled. The lover of truth suffers when truth is despised. The lover of justice suffers when injustice prevails. The lover of beauty suffers in an act of vulgarity. And yet the idealist continues to hold forth his fragile torch through the winds of the world that never ceases. There is a paradox here. Idealism is expensive, but its expense is not like that of luxury. To buy luxury is to diminish one's wealth. for the sake of temporary delight, but to buy ideals is to dismiss one's comfort for the sake of earned worth. Okay, it keeps going on and on. I can't read that one. It's just not. I'm not in the right space. Oh, Santa Claus coming to town. Good old Santa Claus. I wrote a fragment. I don't know when. I guess. Oh, I guess it's somewhere in 19. No, because that would be the future. I don't know when it was. Anyway. Oh my god! I fucking do all that bullshit. I'm trying to make it bigger so I can actually fucking see it. Alright, now I gotta make the window bigger so I can see all of it. Alright. Oh, got it. I wrote this. Santa Claus is coming to town. So, Santa Claus is coming to town. And he is the one who better watch out. And I will tell you why. Because I know when he's coming. The fragment reads, Santa Claus is coming to town and he is the one who better watch out. I'll tell you why. I know when he is coming. What begins as a play turns serious. A children's jingle is bent into a philosophy of reversal. The watcher becomes the watched. The judge becomes the judge. The sovereign becomes the one who trembles. What is at stake is not Santa, but the entire logic of power, knowledge, and surveillance. To understand the weight of this fragment, we must enter it slowly, section by section, until we have unfolded its depth. 1. The Song of Surveillance. The familiar refrain, Santa Claus is coming to town, is not merely a seasonal tune. It is a parable disguised as a cheer. Children are warned, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, and I'm telling you why. Their warning is not about parents, nor teachers, nor priests. It is about an unseen figure who observes all. Santa knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. And he knows if you've been bad or good. What does this mean? It means that childhood is initiated into surveillance through joy. The lesson is simple. Be good because you are being watched. Obedience is not pursued for its own sake, but under the eye of the unseen judge. Already the moral imagination of the child is bound to a logic of power. The brilliance of the myth is that it makes surveillance delightful. The child sings along, complicit in the very order that disciplines them. To sing Santa Claus is coming to town is to reinforce one's own subjection. 2. The fragment's inversion. The fragment turns this arrangement inside out. Santa Claus is coming to town, and he is the one who better watch out. No longer is it the child who must tremble before the gaze of Santa. It is Santa who must tremble. Why? Because I know when he is coming. Here, authority collapses. Its structure depended upon secrecy. Santa's power lay in his invisibility and unpredictability. He might come at any hour unseen to judge, but now the child or the speaker claims foreknowledge. The element of surprise is gone. The asymmetry of sight is broken. And when the asymmetry is broken, authority dissolves. This is the first philosophical lesson. Power depends not simply on strength, but on concealment. The king is powerful, not because he rules, but because he appears unpredictably. But God is powerful not because he exists, but because his intervention is sudden. The myth is powerful not because it is true, but because its mechanisms are hidden. When the moment when the intrusion when the moment of intrusion is known, the mask falls. 3. The collapse of the omniscience into flesh. In the song, Santa is godlike. He knows without being seen. He transcends time, appearing all at once. But in the fragment, this illusion collapses. If one knows when he comes, then he does not come as God, but as traveler. He does not come outside of time, but within. He is not eternal, but scheduled. This is a profound reversal. Omniscience, once broken, reveals flesh. The God becomes man. The myth becomes logistics. He who was everywhere is now someone who must walk, who must wait, who must endure the passage of time. Santa ceases to be the omnipotent and becomes a courier. The fragment performs the demythologizing gesture of philosophy to pierce through the divine aura and show the finite body beneath. 4. The end of the surprise. The essence of a gift is surprise. A gift is foreseen. A gift that is foreseen ceases to be a gift and becomes a transaction. It is not the toy that matters, but the way it arrives, suddenly, unexpectedly, as grace. But if the moment of arrival is known, then the enchantment is undone. This is why Santa's myth is bound to secrecy. His gifts are powerful only because they arrive from nowhere at no known hour by no visible hand. The fragment disrupts this order. The foreknowledge of Santa's coming makes his gifts mere items of exchange. They are no longer miracles, but shipments. The lesson is sharp. Without the veil of surprise, generosity collapses into economy. What is revealed here is the fragility of grace itself. 5. The reciprocity of the gaze. The fragment does more than reveal Santa as finite. It reverses the relationship of watcher and watched. In the song, the child is disciplined by Santa's gaze. But in the fragment, Santa is disciplined by the child's gaze. The watcher is watched, and power is undone. The reciprocity is decisive. For what is surveillance if not one-sided seeing? The prison guard sees the prisoner, but the prisoner does not see the prison guard. The omniscient God sees the sinner, but the sinner does not see the God. The colonizer names the native, but the native does not name in return. But once the gaze is returned, once the language is mastered, the asymmetry is broken. The prisoner sees the guard. The sinner sees the God. The child sees the Santa. And in that moment, authority trembles. 6. Language as a weapon. At this point, we must recall that English itself has been a Santa Claus of empire. It has claimed omniscience. The language of the law, the language of the judge, the language of civilization, it's surveilled not by sight, but by speech. To enter its words was to enter its order. But as the scholars remind us, English is not only the weapon of the colonizer, it is also the weapon of the colonized. Once turned to master, it is also the weapon of the colonized once it is turned. To master English is to know when the colonizer is coming. To use it against its own authority is to make the watcher watch. The colonizer said, "Speak my language so that I may know you." The colonized replied, "I know your language, and so I know you." The same logic holds in the fragment. Santa's song in English turned into a jingle disciplining the child, but the child's fragment is English turned back upon itself, undoing the authority of the song. Here, English, once weaponized against the innocents, becomes weapon of resistance. The fragility of power, number 7. The great truth of the fragment. The great truth the fragment exposes is this: power is fragile. It depends on myth, secrecy, and surprise. It pretends to be eternity, but it lives on logistics. It pretends to omniscience, but it trembles before foreknowledge. It pretends to be infinite, but it is undone by symmetry. Santa, or the Santa, who seemed eternal, is revealed as one who comes and sees. This sovereign, who seemed infinite, is revealed as one who depends on arrival. The colonizer, who seemed omnipotent, is revealed as one whose language may be turned back against him. The fragility of power lies in its dependence upon the ignorance of the subject. Once the subject knows, once the child sees, once the colonized speaks, the order is undone. Number 8, the child as philosopher. What then is the position of the child in the fragment? Not simply the one who waits, but the one who knows. The child ceases to be innocent and becomes philosopher, for philosophy begins this very act. The refusal to be awed, the piercing of appearance, and the courage to say, I know. The philosopher is the child who does not tremble before Santa, who says instead, he must tremble before me. This is not arrogance, but lucidity. It is the recognition that myth is maintained by secrecy, and that secrecy, it can be broken. Number 9, the gift beyond the veil. If the Santa's gifts are undone by foreknowledge, what remains of giving? Perhaps another gift, the gift of freedom itself. For to know when Santa comes is to no longer fear his judgment. It is to be free of his surveillance. One may still receive gifts, but they are no longer bribes for obedience. They are mere objects. The true gift is the liberation from the gaze. Here we see a strange paradox. The undoing of the Santa gives more than the Santa ever could. By losing the myth, one gains freedom. By losing surprise, one gains dignity. By losing the watcher, one gains the power to watch. 10. The myth of coming to town. Finally, we must note that the refrain itself. Santa Claus is coming to town. Always it carried a threat. It is not the town that goes to him. He comes to us. Unbidden, unexpected, sovereign. The town belongs to him in the moment of his arrival, but in the fragment, the town belongs to itself because it knows when he comes. The myth of coming to town is revealed as the myth of sovereignty, the intrusion of power into the ordinary. The fragment's reversal reveals that even this sovereignty is conditional. The one who comes may be awaited. The one who intrudes may be anticipated. And the one who frightens may well be unmasked. 11. Conclusion. Santa Claus, the Santa Claus, is coming to town. That much is certain. But he no longer arrives as sovereign. He arrives as scheduled. He arrives as vulnerable. He arrives as one who must watch out because his secrecy is broken. The fragment teaches us this, that all authority, myths, teaches us this, that all authority, mythic, political, linguistic, it depends on the ignorance of those subjected to it. Once the subject knows, once the gaze is returned, once the language is mastered, the authority trembles. Thus, Santa is not the one who knows. He is the one who is known. And in this reversal lies the freedom of the child, the dignity of the philosopher, and the hope of the oppressed. Zero Friction Machine Company. Classification: myth, surveillance, reversal, and an inventory fragment. There are four infallible ways to discover who truly stands beside a person.